Hello and welcome to the Philippines. I've been asked recently what happens to your condo after 50 years. Is it true that you can only own a condo for 50 years and then it will be sold, demolished, turned into some other business, that type of thing? Anyway, I've done some research. I've talked to some real estate people, and I'm going to try to uh, give you some answers about that today. A condominium is a corporation. This corporation has a lifespan of 50 years upon which it can be voted upon what to do with it. Every member owner is a member of that corporation. The Republic Act 4726, the Condominium Act, helps to state the rights and responsibilities as pertains to condominiums. The members of the condominium corporation at 50 years have the right to vote on what's going to happen, but there are a number of things that need to be stipulated in order to go forward with that. First off, I am not a lawyer in the Philippines or anywhere else, and I'm not a real estate agent in the Philippines or anything else. But I can read, and I can offer to do some research and offer some information on topics that I'm not an expert in. And that's what I'm about to do here. So the condominium, what the Condominium Act implies, according to some, is that condominiums are only good for 50 years. And that may have been the case many years ago, but with modern materials and construction methods, many condominiums will probably last much longer than 50 years. And there are a number of things we're going to go over here, and not going to cover each and every section of this act, but we'll point out a few things. First of all, condominiums are corporations. A corporation has a lifespan of 50 years, upon which time it can be renewed. The owners of the condominium, the unit owners, have a interest in that, are part of that corporation, and their voting rights equal their share in the condominium. If you've got 100 units, you own one unit, uh, you get that share. If you own 10 units, you've got that voting share, according to my understanding. Um, just like many other issues in the corporation that will be voted on throughout that 50 years, where at least 50% of the people, I believe, have to be present. In fact, I recently was living in a condo, and a meeting was set up, and they couldn't get enough of the owners to show up for the meeting, so the meeting had to be canceled because they didn't have enough people to vote on the different items that they wanted to cover in their meeting. It seems that developers, according to what I have read, many developers used to lease the land that the condo was built on for 50 years. Which time, if they didn't release that land, then there was obviously a problem, unless the condo owners would decide to lease that land. Nowadays, from what I've read, most developers buy the land, so you're no longer looking at the 50-year limit on leased land. This Section 8 deals with that 50-year time period more specifically. And reading a number of different websites, how they state this basically is that after 50 years, um, there are three basic items that have to be agreed upon for the condo to cease existence or to be sold or demolished or whatever. And the first one being it has to be in existence at least 50 years. The second stipulation is that it has to be obsolete and uneconomical. Uh, that is a bit of a subjective decision, but that is stated. And then the third stipulation is that The owners holding more than 50% interest in the common areas of the condominium are opposed to repair, restoration, remodeling of the project. So you have to get more than half the people, the shareholders, to say, well, we don't want to remodel, we don't want to restore, we don't want to continue with this condominium corporation. We want to sell it and or demolish it, and then the proceeds of that sale would be split equally among the shareholders according to their interest in the shares. So many of us who would buy into a condominium at this point in time would not be around 50 years from now, probably. Although your wife and or your children or heirs would inherit that and have to deal with this issue. It's good to know. I'm going to back up here to section 6, and it tells you a little bit about your rights and that type of thing as well, and what the boundary of the units that belong to the unit owner and your rights within that space. Go down here to E, 6E. Go down here to section E. Each condominium owner shall have the exclusive right to paint, repaint, tile, wax, paper, otherwise refinish and decorate the inner surfaces of the walls, ceilings, floors, windows, and doors bounding his own unit. Now, I would, if I bought a unit, I would come in and I would pretty much soundproof it. I would use soundproofing, sound absorbing, sound barrier materials on the floor, ceiling, and walls to isolate myself from the noises, because little or nothing has been done with these buildings acoustically. I've found the same thing to be true in the USA, where we have such great building standards, supposedly. I have moved into a number of condominiums, apartment buildings in different cities, and I've always asked about the noise control, the acoustics of buildings. And many times I'm told, yes, sir, we have built these with what they call them party walls to help limit the amount of noise between each unit. And their party walls are usually pretty much useless. It's just instead of one wall, they have two walls, but there's an air gap between those two walls, so there's nothing really to stop the sound except for that wall. And places that I've lived in that have claimed that they had the party walls, I could still hear my neighbor's phone ring and their alarm go off. So obviously it was pretty much useless. Section F. Each condominium owner shall have the exclusive right to mortgage, pledge, or encumber his condominium and have the same appraised independently of the other condominiums, but any obligation incurred by such condominium owner is personal to him. Going to G, each condominium owner has also the absolute right to sell or dispose of his condominium unless the master deed contains a requirement that the property be first offered to the condominium owners within the reasonable period of time before the same is offered to outside parties. So it may be in your purchase price, that contract, that before you can sell it to anybody outside the condominium, you have to offer it to other members of that condominium community. So it's a good idea to use a real estate lawyer when you get involved in something like this. If you're planning to buy a condominium, um, for instance, if you're going to buy a condominium, you come up on a great deal, you like the area, like the building is still in good shape apparently, uh, but it's 30 years old or 40 years old. This might be of more concern to you because 10 years down the road, they may decide to sell it. They may decide not to renew the condominium corporation, and at that point in time, it would be sold or turned into some other type of building. Um, I recommend that you read through the rest of this stuff, and some of it's kind of gobbledygook lawyer talk, but gives you some ideas of what are your rights and the rights of the developer. But there are a number of sites that have this information up there. Anyway, from my understanding, you should be safe. Shouldn't have to worry about that 50-year rule. It would be good to know whether the developer owns the land, so that you're not dealing with that 50-year rule, or whether they're leasing the land. I was told by one real estate agent who worked for Mega World. They're building the big development out on Mactan, Newtown. She was telling me that Mega World, Ayala, and she named one other one, and probably some others that sell their condominium units in perpetuity. Basically means that 50-year rule does not apply, and I'm not quite sure. I understand that if they own the land instead of leasing the land, it doesn't apply to the land. But as far as the condominium corporation, my understanding is still that the condominium corporation has a lifetime of 50 years, at which time the members vote whether to continue it another 50 years. And another thing to keep in mind, that laws can and do change. So thank you all for bearing with me through this process. Please like the video, please share the video, please subscribe. Safe travels to you all wherever you're at, and we'll see you next time.